Hello, today I'm the bearer of good news. What is up, what's down, what's to the side? It is an anxiety recovery guidebook for you because that's what I would have needed.
Only memory of sufficient achievement can take the fear out of contemplation. This is why time must be allowed to pass. Imagination has flashed so many pictures of the difficulties on the way to recovery over such a long time that these difficulties have come to seem so concrete they cannot be thought away, cannot be talked away, only repeated successful achievement can finally take the fear out of contemplation.
Hi, I'm just here to tell you what topics we're going to go through in this video. We're going to go through some story about me, just to give you some context as to what I've been struggling with and my journey through the mental health care system and treatments that didn't work. So I'm going to explain to you the symptoms and why they feel worse. How is that possible? Then I'm going to talk about coping skills, because before we go out, we need first to learn coping skills. We need first to create a strong and stable foundation before we go out and do things you're really scared of, because if not, you're gonna overexpose and it's gonna make you worse. I'm also gonna, if you struggle with generalized anxiety disorder, I also have some resources for you. And then in the next part, we're gonna talk about cognitive behavioral approached exposure therapy. And then I'm going to recommend some books. I highly recommend these books. Just like put all those other books on the shelf already. Oh my god. So if you feel ready, then let's get into the video.
Don't be frightened if you feel bewildered, even a bit unsteady. None of it matters. Fear and tension have made you this way. These are normal reactions in the circumstances, so don't think you're so very sick because you have these particular reactions. From the very moment you make up your mind to loosen to the best of your ability, your body will begin to recover.
Hello, my name is Maria Anette. I'm a 22-year-old woman from Norway. I have struggled with anxiety for the past 12 years, or since I was a child, but really, utterly despaired for the past 10 years. When I was 12, I was so sick with anxiety. I wasn't at school for months on end, and I was extremely depersonalized and derealized.
And because a nervously ill person worries continually about the state he is in, he gradually loses interest in other things, and the outside world may become to seem unreal. Feeling unreal doesn't mean you're going crazy. It doesn't mean you're permanently losing touch with the world. It means no more than you've been sunk in reverie about your illness for so long that thinking about it seems more natural at the moment than being drawn out of yourself to think about other things. Feel as unreal as your introspection demands, and don't be frightened by it. I promise you that when you begin to recover, other interests will return and a feeling of unreality will fade.
And I had panic attacks and agoraphobia, raging agoraphobia and OCD. I also had health anxiety, and I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, and agoraphobia, and treated for OCD. And then I got great help from the children's services, and I managed to make like a recovery where I got back to school. I finished the primary school, and I started high school. Was thriving in high school. I was more anxious than the average person. That's just because I hadn't the tools for coping with my worries and all that, but I was still going to school, which was a huge step from where I came from. Then, unfortunately, in 2017, I became ill again. It was kind of gradual, and I didn't realize what was happening before it was like before I was in the middle of it. I feel anxious, and I don't like it. And I was extremely derealized again, and I had existential OCD, which is horrible. And when I was 18, I asked for help again. I reached out for help in the adult mental health services, and the help I got was ridiculous.
Severe sensitization can come suddenly or gradually, following too strenuous dieting, chronic anemia, indeed following any debilitating illness. Or it may accompany the constant tension of living with some problem, guilt, disgrace, sorrow. In other words, long, anxious contemplation of any difficult life situation, such as living with an alcoholic husband or wife and impending divorce. These may bring gradual sensitization. However, In my experience, some nervously ill people, not many, but some, have no cause for their illness as apparent as those causes I have just mentioned, and much time may then be spent searching in such people for a deep hidden cause, in the hope that by finding it, the patient can be cured. While exposing a possible original cause for nervous illness may be interesting, I have rarely seen it help a person who has been ill for a long time. Present sensitization remains to be cured, whatever the original cause. The sensitized person is concerned with the state he is in now, not with what may possibly have caused this a long time ago. Too much time is lost and too much unnecessary suffering fostered, searching for deep-seated causes for nervous illness. It is not enough to be told your mother didn't love you when you were young, and that is why you're anxious now. Whatever may indeed have been a contributing cause to nervous illness, and however clearly this may be explained, sensitization remains.
To me, psychodynamic therapy isn't the right approach for these type of disorders. If you do fall into the category of complex PTSD or depression, and depression is your main struggle, then psychodynamic can be great. When it comes to these disorders, OCD, health anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, social phobia, when it comes to recovery from these disorders, I don't think digging for past traumas, especially for 5 years, is important, because that made the suffering prolonged and it also made it worse, which we will get to. But because I was so sensitized and tense and bewildered, I had more symptoms and they felt worse, and my life was shrunken more and more.
Begins to avoid and avoid and avoid until her horizon may eventually be bounded by her front door. Agoraphobia is simple to understand when we see it like this. There's no mystery here, and how human it all is.
When the patient, and let me know if you relate to this, when you come in and your life quality is very shrunken and low because your general symptoms, the pressure of your symptoms is so high and you're barely getting through the day, you don't understand what's happening, you're feeling so tense, you're having panic attacks all the time, and you just need help here and now today. And then that's not the help you receive, because the help you receive is just sit down, talk about past traumas, which makes you more tense, which makes you more sensitized, which makes anxiety worse, and all of a sudden you're just like at a breaking point. I think if we're going to do psychodynamic, psychoanalytic therapy, you need to first treat the anxiety that is today to get you into your tolerance window again, or get you to a more like stronger and more stable fundamental base. And because I wasn't getting any relief or help from the mental health care system, it felt like my anxiety was getting worse, right? I actually complained to my last therapist, and I was like talking about my childhood traumas whilst I was still living at home in the same situation, having so much anxiety, and I was begging for help with anxiety management, and you insisted on talking about my childhood trauma was not a good idea, and it made me suffer so much. And he actually said that I was probably right and that he was sorry, and that's not how if we could go back, that probably wouldn't be how he would approach it. It was a really strong personality disintegration. I felt like there wasn't me anymore, and that everything about me was anxiety. I was just like a ball of anxiety, and life got really shrunken, and I ended up really depressed.
He adds stress to stress and so keeps himself sensitized. And when a person is constantly sensitized and afraid of the state he is in, we say he is nervously ill. A sensitized person may find that from time to time his heart may beat quickly, unevenly, as he says, misbeats. He may feel giddy, weak, hot, flush easily, have a feeling of inability to take in a deep breath, a feeling of almost suffocation, feeling of lump in the throat, making swallowing seem difficult. He may have headache, blurred vision, churning stomach, and occasionally diarrhea, nausea, even vomiting. Unfortunately, very few nervously ill people realize that these are merely the normal symptoms of stress, the ordinary symptoms of anxiety made intense by sensitization. They don't understand that these symptoms form a set, restricted pattern, that the pattern is limited, a chemical which can act only on certain organs and then only in a certain way. The pattern is so set that many nervously ill people have already experienced the worst their nerves can bring them, but they do not know this. Because their body has brought so many frightening surprises in the past, they live in constant fear of what further surprise may yet be in store for them. They fear the unknown as much as they fear the known.
When we struggle with anxiety, we might be very symptom focused and put a lot into the symptoms, analyze them. Many people end up with health anxiety. So overlearning about the symptoms might help. If you struggle with visual disturbances, I have a video talking about that. If you struggle with depersonalization, derealization, and need to relate to someone, I have a video about that. So get to know the symptoms. So we're not going to be symptoms focused. You're not going to look into the symptoms and be like, it might be a brain tumor. Probably, but you can write down your symptoms. Dizziness from anxiety. Why? Like, why do I get dizzy from anxiety? Why do I feel like my skin is burning when I have anxiety? You need to put anxiety into the Google search, because if you've been checked out by your doctor, then let it go. There's nothing you can do. If you have health anxiety, use the health anxiety to your advantage. If you are scared of getting ill, then get proper sleep, eat regularly, work out, and take care of yourself, instead of spending 2 hours on Google convincing yourself that you have scary disease.
Cope with those thoughts, that agitation. You cope by accepting and not shrinking from whatever feelings your body may bring you. Accepting and not shrinking from whatever thoughts you may think. You let your body go loose, let it go as limp as you can manage, loosen to the best of your ability, and then be prepared to let the thoughts and the feelings come and do their very worst. Don't be bluffed by every flash of fear into adding, oh my goodness, and then finally, oh my goodness, let me out of here quickly. The flash of panic that first comes when you find yourself sitting at a function surrounded by people. I call this the first fear. This is automatically intense, out of all proportion, because you are so sensitized by fear to being in this particular situation. And here we come to the crucial part in understanding recovery from this kind of nervous illness. The intensity of this panic is so upsetting, so severe, that you immediately add more fear. You add fear of that first flashing fear. And I call this added fear the second fear. And it is this second fear, the fear you so constantly add yourself, that is keeping you sensitized, keeping your nerves always ready to flash that first fear so intensely. It is all those oh my goodnesses that build up into what you call a turn.
We've come to the part of the video that's called coping skills. And this is because before we go out and do exposure, we need to have tools. And you might have been given a lot of random tools, so I will just mention them. And then I have a video called Everything I Know About Anxiety, where I talk about how you should breathe in a non-compulsive way, and how comfort shows can help you out of derealization. The panic feeds on the panic. 1 cup of coffee. Coffee is actually not that bad. I would watch Friends on repeat. I also have a video on a tip skill that you should know because it's great and you can use it after your exposure sessions. I always want to say recovery sessions, but it's the same thing, you know. Today I'm going to show you a DBT skill set that's called TIPP. Hello. All exposure therapy can be incredibly helpful if done correctly. I'm just going to put this ice package here because I've been outside doing exposure therapy, and I also done inwards exposure therapy here alone, which I'm going to stop doing because it doesn't make anything better. It just makes everything worse. It doesn't make me habitualized to the symptoms. It just makes me anxious for the entire day, and it tenses me up and makes the outward exposure harder. So I'm just going to stop doing that. No more. Anyways. Before you go out and do exposure therapy, you need to tense down. You need to get into your tolerance window. So if you are in a relapse right now, in your worst period with anxiety, and you're having panic attacks three times a day, and you're just constantly tense and walking around like this, and you're dizzy and you don't even feel safe in your home, or like safer in your home, then this is not the time to do exposure therapy outside on the metro and the bus and out in the downtown city and going to a shopping mall. Like, this is not the time. You need first, for example, my best recommendations is to do exercise. And not boring exercise, but I'm talking about take a dance class on YouTube, take an aerobic class on YouTube, download some apps. If you want to learn how to do the splits, download a split app where you also get a workout because you have to warm up and then stretch. So much fun. Working out, if you work out past like a mark. So for me, I would be stressed and I'd be like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do this. And then it's like a runner's high with the aerobic exercise where I'm like, now I feel good, because exercise and like a good workout routine will burn up your stress. It will literally burn up your stress. Running around, except if you're scared and reinforcing the production, but running around actually burns cortisol, or at least I like to believe so. So first you need to work on getting into your tolerance window and tensing down a bit so that you get a bit less sensitized. Learning about anxiety and why things feel like they feel in your body as well, super important. The only reason it feels worse and worse and worse is because you get more and more sensitized, more and more scared, and you're spending more and more time in those sensations and in those worries. Anxiety can't harm you any more than it's already shown in a panic attack. Like, there is nothing that makes the next panic attack be the death of you. You are not gonna suffocate next time. It wasn't luck that you survived the 100 last times, because anxiety can't do more than that. The only reason it feels worse is because you're more sensitized. You're more scared. Learn about sensitization and the 3 main reasons why you stay nervously ill. Another thing you can do upon exercise is to fix your sleep. I would recommend, if your sleep is all over the place and you're really struggling with sleep and you either sleep 2 hours and 2 hours and 0 and then 12 hours, to ask your doctor for sleep meds. So not sleep meds that ruins your REM sleep, but ask for melatonin, or like these old allergy medications that makes you drowsy, or a antipsychotic, which sounds really terrifying, but without them, things would have been so much worse. Like, I'm telling you, sleep, exercise, food, like eat regularly, hypoglycemia will make your anxiety worse. And I hate to be this person because I loved promoting candy and chocolate on my TikTok, but sorry, I'm so sorry, but limiting the amount of like pure sugar you eat in a week also helps, because it helps your hormones and your gut and your blood sugar levels. And so, like, drink water, darling. I would also just put in here that if you think you can't drink coffee because all these articles tells you to not drink coffee if you have anxiety, bullshit. Just don't drink 2 or 3. Drink 1 cup of coffee. Anxiety is not going to stop you from having your good morning coffee. Like, if it means that you need to make a latte instead of an espresso, then be it. Don't let anxiety do that. Like, ooh, anxiety also can feel a bit better with coffee. Like, if you have a lot of brain fog because of anxiety, 1 cup of coffee can be so helpful. Just be careful not to drink coffee after like 12 if you want to go to bed. Like, for me anyways, I shouldn't drink after 12. I would also recommend meditation, and if you can't sit down and meditate, then just affirmations. Just keep affirmations on. Like, when you try to go to bed, just keep them on. When you're drawing, just keep them on. When you're doing your chores. And then hobbies, it's really important that you have hobbies and that you make sure anxiety doesn't personality integrate you completely. I'm doing output exposure therapy alone because the healthcare system is they have major holes in it, and I am not getting exposure therapy. The thing is, if you're going to do exposure therapy, there are very many opinions on how to do it. In PTSD, they do something called flooding, which is an horrendous idea for agoraphobia and panic disorder. It's very important when you do exposure therapy on your own, or even with a therapist or a nurse, that you do not overdo it. I know that there's a lot of people saying, just go and do the worst you can imagine and then just get it over with. If you've struggled intensely, like really, really bad, and you go and do that, you are not gonna be able to handle it, and it will re-traumatize you and heighten your sensitization, and it can trigger a relapse. Believe me, I'm gonna push through things, and it left me so traumatized in a, sensitization, anxiety kind of way. And also last year we did trauma work at the end of that stay at residential, and it was an horrendous idea. So bad idea. So it is important to push yourself. Of course, Like for me, even going on the bus and sitting apart from my mum for 2 stations was like, but it's better to start there and to actually go there than to put myself in a situation where I go on the bus alone. I take it for 20 minutes and then I freak out at the 20-minute mark alone with no resources and how to deal with it. Totally overexposed. I'm 20 minutes from home and I just freak out, I panic, I get so tense, so sensitized. I can't do any cognitive work. My cognition's turned off and I call someone or I run home in fear. That was a waste. That was a waste of exposure, right?
Don't be disheartened if at this stage you simply cannot see yourself ever going here, going there, doing this, doing that. The very thought of it may strike like a blow, and yet salvation lies in repeated doing. It lies in doing until the habit of doing is so well established it replaces the long habit of defeatist thinking. This takes time and effort because the habit of defeatist thinking is so strong that although you may have made many successful journeys by now, deciding to go out and then starting off may seem almost as difficult today as it did in the beginning. Don't be discouraged by this. Let more time pass until the memory of more and more successful achievement accumulates.
For metro and subway, I started with just going down to the subway station and listening to the sounds and staying at the subway station. Horrible, so bad. And then yesterday I went in, I took the subway alone for just one station and I took it back and I called it a day, like nothing more than that. So when you finally regulated a bit, if you have generalized anxiety disorder like me, you will always feel tense and restless. There's a difference between feeling tense and restless and as if something needs to be fixed and having like pure anxiety attacks for 2 weeks on end. So when you're out of that anxiety attack and you can think a bit clearly, then decide, where should I go? Questions I use are, what is the catastrophic thought that I'm so scared is gonna happen? Like, what's the catastrophe that I fear? So I'm scared to lose control and get unbearable anxiety. What is a proper exposure exercise? I'm not gonna take the train out of town and go and shop at a mall. Like, I might be a recovery queen, but I'm not a Superman. I will take the bus to stops alone and then take it back alone. Then I write, what's the chance of this happening? So I write 110, you know? And then the next one is, what are safety behaviors that I should reduce or avoid? There is a difference between safety behavior and coping skill. Safety behavior is me sitting in a certain position, staring at a certain wall, because I feel like if I don't, I will explode. Coping mechanism is me putting on my sweatpants instead of jeans so that I'm a bit more comfortable. However, it shouldn't be like the magic pair of sweatpants. You know what I'm saying? So that slides nicely into a safety technique. So be careful with that. Coping mechanism can also be listening to music, but a safety technique would be me listening to that one song over and over again, because if I don't, I will probably choke to death. Do you understand? And then I go out and I do the exposure, and I either feel just a bit uneasy and it's like, oh, uncomfortable, but oh, I'm not actually managing it. And doing this every single day, going on the bus, which is something I have fed so deeply, is habitualizing me to seeing that, oh my God, okay, maybe it's okay, like it's fine. So in the same way you brush your teeth and you don't think much about it, hopefully, you will start going on the bus and not think much about it because you get habitualized. I come home and I write, was the experience as bad as predicted? And you are totally fine with writing, yes, it was horrible. I feel like I was going to throw up and I was hyperventilating and I was so sweaty and warm. But then on the next one, it says, did your biggest fear actually come through? And my biggest fear was that I would get unbearable anxiety and lose control. And I got really bad anxiety, but it wasn't unbearable. Like I'm still here and I didn't lose control. Nobody, like, maybe I was hyperventilating a bit, but like I didn't start like laying on the floor like this or like punching people or screaming or like, so no, it didn't. And then the next one is, how much do you fear that it's going to happen the next time you do this exposure though? And then if you're very new to this, you're probably going to write, oh, I'm 99% sure, like I'm 100% sure. Like you're fine with writing that the first couple of times, because eventually after 2 weeks or something, like after 2 weeks, all of a sudden you'll see that you're writing 85% instead of 110. And that is progress, my ladies and boys. And then the last question is, how, or like I like to write this as my last, but you can like stock them. How many safety behaviors did I avoid? So you can write in percent as well. So I write like, 70%. And what you will find, I'm just going to spoil this to you right now. What you'll find is that the higher the number is on how much you avoided safety techniques, the better you will feel about the exposure. And the lower the number of how much you fear is going to happen next time becomes, the more safety techniques you use. If you are on station number 2 and you freak out and you do not trust in yourself to handle this, and you call your mom, you will never experience that you will be able to do it. Like you will never experience that. Actually, once you get to station number 3 and you walk off and you take the bus back and you sit there and you feel like you're suffocating, all of a sudden you can breathe again. And all of a sudden you realize, well, actually, I'm in no danger. If you do just retrieve, I don't know if that's the word, but if you just like run through your safety techniques, you'll have no idea that this is the reality. And you'll be as scared the next time. And then you write 70 because I did lock myself in a position, but that's something I'm gonna work with, right? You do this, and like it's better to do just a teeny tiny bit every single day than to go out and do 10 stations alone on Monday and then be so exhausted that you don't do anything on before Thursday. It's better to do it every single day, because remember what we're doing, habitualizing. And it also may, in the beginning you may walk home feeling worse, because you get more sensitized, because you get more tense. But if you continue every single day and habitualize, also take care of yourself whenever you're not doing exposure, so you still get enough sleep and you eat and you work out and you try and relax here and there and you feel like, okay, like I'm surviving. Eventually you will get less and less sensitized. But then one day, maybe you had 2 really great days, like took the subway alone and you went on the bus and it was completely fine. And then the next day it's all back. Like it feels like you're on square one. You're not on square one.
Memory alone will bring it back. And when it does return, so many people make the mistake of once more becoming upset by it and thinking that its cause must be for them very deep-seated indeed. A nervously ill person is so easily bluffed by his feelings of the moment because they are so hard to bear and therefore seem so important. Very strange feelings indeed may momentarily, from time to time, sweep over the nervously ill. And recovery lies in passing right through these moments again and again until they no longer matter. Strange feelings in nervous illness have no real significance. Recovery does not lie in trying to switch them off, in trying to tranquilize them away, or in trying to avoid them, withdraw from them. Recovery lies in going right through them with utter acceptance in as relaxed a way as possible.
But just like Clary says, remember to practice and not test yourself. You're not going, I wonder how far I can take the bus today since I was so well yesterday. No, you're saying, I'm going to practice taking the bus 4 stations today. And if I fail and if I get a panic attack, then at least I'm going to just like remember why it's so important I do this. And I'm also going to see that even when I get a panic attack, I'll be fine. We need to take the air out of the anxiety balloon. Anxiety is so convincing and it's horrible, and it feels like you're just like locked in this parallel universe watching everyone else live their life, and you're just like so scared of everything, and there's like rules just for you that you need to follow to stay alive, and it's bullshit. Just remember that. You might fear that, you are not ready for being recovered and all that brings, because you are so fearful and anxious right now. But just remember that recovery is a gradual process, and how you feel about the world and all the things you need to do and all that will change. And you're not going to get back to the world and all you need to do in the state you're in now. Remember, we are recovering, and you're also going to feel so much different. Remember, if you are so used to feeling so tense and anxious and agitated and sleeping poorly and having really disgusting sensations all the time, the world's gonna feel different. So don't think that you are gonna feel this way forever.
At this stage, you may even shrink from the thought of full recovery in the future and the demands that this may bring. You imagine yourself trying to meet these demands as you feel now, still ill. But recovery brings its own changes. It brings renewed strength, renewed interest, and with these comes ability to cope. You must go forward with trust in this change, trust in a gradual merging into normal living once more. It is the gradualness that makes all possible.
It is very important that before, maybe it's not so easy before, but for me it's not easy after because I get very activated. But it's very important that you rest and recover. If you are tense all the freaking time and then you go out and you do exposure at a level where you're so tense because you didn't recover from yesterday, it won't hold the effect that we want. So it is totally acceptable, as long as you don't do it in the exposure. It's totally acceptable to come home, put an ice package on your chest, put your legs high, listen to affirmations, and do, I don't know, breathing exercises if that helps you. It's been 5 years since I reached out to the public mental health care system and asked for help with my anxiety. I have suffered immensely because of just a lack of knowledge on how to deal with these type of illnesses. I have felt utterly despaired and totally defeated, and I have been through many bouts of really severe depression. But today I think I know how we can help ourselves. Let go of the feeling of total defeat and utter despair. You need to just trust that you can recover. There is nothing that makes you hard to help or that makes you hard to heal. There is nothing that makes you more difficult to help. There is nothing that's gonna make you be the one exception to not recover, okay? You are just tense and bewildered and fearful, and it's horrible. Like, it is horrible. Like my doctor says in the hospital, he says, anxiety is the worst non-dangerous thing you can go through. So I just want to leave and recommend Clary Weaker's books. First, I recommend Pass Through Panic. If you enjoy it, then go ahead and buy her audiobook, Hope and Help for Your Nerves, or in Australia it's called Self-Help for Your Nerves, and then Freedom from Nervous Suffering. She also has some other as well, but I haven't gotten around to them yet. If you're in Norway, I would recommend Magnus Nordmo, den lille boken som kurerer sterk angst. I believe in you. You are so totally capable of recovering from this madness. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, comment down below, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye everyone.
Achievement must be consolidated before you can feel you have firm ground beneath your feet from which to face the future.